Imagine boarding a plane, settling in for a routine flight, completely unaware of the ordeal that awaits. That was the scenario for the passengers of Scandinavian Airlines Flight 751 on December 27, 1991. The day was just like any other. The passengers checked in their luggage, went through security, and finally boarded the plane. There was a sense of normalcy that filled the air. The hum of the engines, the rustling of bags being stowed in overhead compartments, the murmur of conversations, and the occasional laughter of children. It was a scene played out countless times in airports across the globe. As the plane taxied down the runway, the flight attendants began their routine safety briefing. The emergency exits were pointed out, the seatbelt procedures explained, and a demonstration on how to use the oxygen masks was given. Some passengers watched attentively, while others, seasoned in their travels, barely acknowledged the familiar instructions. The plane took off, and as it gained altitude, the landscape below transformed into a patchwork of fields and houses. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was calm. The hum of the engines became a steady background noise, a comforting reminder of the marvel of modern aviation. Conversations resumed, in-flight entertainment flickered on individual screens, and flight attendants began preparing for the in-flight service. The aircraft was a cocoon, isolating its occupants from the world outside. The passengers of Flight 751 were settled in, oblivious to the fact that they were about to become part of a remarkable survival story. This is the dramatic irony of our tale. We, as viewers, know what the passengers didn't. We understand that their routine flight was about to take an unexpected turn, transforming a journey they'd taken countless times before into an ordeal that would test the resilience of human spirit and the marvel of modern aircraft design. And so, with the passengers blissfully unaware, Flight 751 began its journey. Just after takeoff, the calm was shattered. The engines failed. But why? The answer lies in a phenomenon as simple as it is deadly when it comes to aviation: ice. On that fateful day of December 27, 1991, Scandinavian Airlines Flight 751 met its adversary in the form of ice. So how does ice cause engine failure? Well, as the plane ascends, the temperature decreases. Any moisture present in the air can freeze, accumulating on the wings and engine inlets. When this ice breaks off and is ingested into the engine, it can cause a surge, or in more layman's terms, a sudden increase in engine speed. This can lead to a loss of thrust, and in the worst-case scenario, complete engine failure. That's exactly what happened to Flight 751. The pilots, Captain Stefan Rasmussen and First Officer Ulf Cedermark, were seasoned aviators, but nothing could have prepared them for the chilling scenario that was about to unfold. As the ice ingestion occurred, the engine surged. The automated protection system, designed to protect the engines from damage, reduced the throttle. But, with the ice causing false sensor readings, this protective measure ironically led to both engines shutting down. The realization hit hard. The familiar hum of the engines was replaced by an eerie silence. The cockpit was a flurry of activity, as the pilots grappled with the situation. They tried to restart the engines, but to no avail. The aircraft was now a glider with no power to sustain flight. In the face of an unthinkable predicament, the pilots were left with the daunting task of landing a plane without functioning engines. With the engines out, the plane was essentially a massive glider, and the pilots had to make an emergency landing. Now, imagine yourself in the cockpit of Scandinavian Airlines Flight 751, with over 100 lives depending on your quick thinking and skillful maneuvering. The air is thick with tension, but the pilot's training kicks in, their hands steady on the controls. They immediately contact air traffic control, their voices calm and controlled despite the dire situation. The pilots explain the situation swiftly and succinctly, requesting emergency landing clearance. The air traffic control responds promptly, guiding them towards the nearest available landing site. The pilots, with their eyes on the instruments and their minds on the task at hand, acknowledge the directions and begin the arduous task of maneuvering the stricken plane. As the pilots guide the massive, engineless aircraft towards the landing site, they're faced with a monumental challenge. They must maintain the plane's altitude and speed, bearing in mind the weight of the aircraft and the lack of engine power. It's a delicate balance, a dance of sorts with the laws of physics. The pilots work in perfect synchronization, their actions dictated by years of training and their shared understanding of the task at hand. They banked the plane gently, adjusting the angle and speed to ensure a safe descent. Every decision is critical, every movement calculated. The pilot's hands move swiftly over the controls, their eyes darting between the instruments and the rapidly approaching ground. The communication between them is minimal, their actions speaking louder than words. As they near the landing site, the pilots make the final adjustments, their hearts pounding in their chests. The ground rushes up to meet them, and with a deep breath, they execute the final maneuver. The plane touches down, skidding across the ground in a spray of dirt and debris. It's a rough landing, but under the circumstances, it's the best possible outcome. In the cockpit, the pilots exhale, relief washing over them. They've done it. They've brought the plane down safely, despite the odds, but their work isn't done yet. They immediately start the emergency evacuation procedures, their actions as swift and precise as they were during the landing. The pilots' efforts during this emergency landing are nothing short of heroic. Their quick thinking, their skillful maneuvering, their unwavering focus, all these factors played a crucial role in averting a larger-scale disaster, but above all, it was their calm under pressure, their ability to make critical decisions in the face of immense danger that truly made the difference. Against all odds, the pilots managed to bring the plane down in a manner that minimized damage and saved lives. Their actions on that fateful day are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a stark reminder of the importance of emergency procedures in aviation. Because in the end, it's not just about flying, it's about ensuring the safety of every single person on board. In the aftermath of the emergency landing, a miracle unfolded. As the dust settled and the deafening silence cloaked the scene, the wreckage of Scandinavian Airlines Flight 751 lay strewn across a snow-covered field. Yet, amid the mangled debris, a beacon of hope emerged. The passengers, still reeling from the shock, began to realize the magnitude of what they had just experienced. The cabin, once filled with laughter and conversation, now echoed with sighs of relief and whispers of disbelief. The emergency landing had been successful. They had survived. One by one, they began to evacuate the aircraft. Some emerged with minor cuts and bruises, others visibly shaken, but all remarkably alive. They huddled together in the biting cold, their breaths visible in the icy air, their hearts pounding in unison. The enormity of their survival began to sink in as they looked around at the faces they had shared the flight with, faces that were no longer strangers but comrades in a shared ordeal. A flurry of activity ensued as the rescue services arrived. Sirens wailed in the distance, piercing the stillness of the winter morning. The sight of the flashing lights brought a sense of reassurance. Help was here and they were safe. The news that all 129 passengers and crew had survived the crash was greeted with astonishment. Given the circumstances, the engine failure, the emergency landing, the potential for disaster, the outcome seemed impossible. Yet against all odds, they had survived. It was nothing short of a miracle. The story of Scandinavian Airlines Flight 751 is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It underscores the effectiveness of emergency procedures that had been drilled into the crew and the passengers' trust in them. It also highlights the ingenuity of modern aircraft design, which played a crucial role in averting a larger-scale disaster. In the face of disaster, the resilience of human spirit, the effectiveness of emergency procedures, and the ingenuity of modern aircraft design resulted in a miraculous survival story. The ordeal of Flight 751 didn't just end with the rescue of its passengers. In its wake, a meticulous investigation unfolded, seeking to unravel the intricate details of the incident. It was a painstaking process, but one that held immense value. The findings were revealing. The engine failure was due to ice ingestion, a scenario that was perhaps not given due consideration in previous safety protocols. This realization led to significant changes in aviation safety. Procedures were reevaluated with a renewed focus on the prevention of ice buildup on engines. It was a clear case of turning adversity into opportunity. An incident that could have ended in tragedy instead triggered advancements that made flying safer for all. The story of Flight 751 serves as a reminder that even in the face of dire circumstances, miracles can happen, and each incident carries valuable lessons for the future.